Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good evening, dear friends. Welcome. Here we are again, Sunday, 6 p.m. for the Prayer for Peace program on Kardec Radio, where we're always nourishing our souls. Welcome. So glad to be here with all of you. And before our prayer, our message today comes out of this book that is entitled Forgiveness as the Way and the Way of Forgiveness. And this book is by Alberto Almeida, who is a spiritist. And I believe today he was at the Miami conference with Divaldo, if I'm not mistaken. So just some information about this book. It's very difficult to come by. And if I might, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it is no longer, you can no longer get it in the English print. Not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it can no longer be had from Amazon. Welcome to try it. So let us honor these books, right? It's difficult enough to find them in English, and then when they run out of the publications, it's sadder. Okay, so we are not focusing, of course, on the whole book, but on chapter 14, which is entitled, But What If I Just Cannot Forgive? Hi, Beth Cruz. Thank you for signing in. Nice to have you here this evening. So, hello, Slavic. Welcome. So, chapter 14, But What If I Just Cannot Forgive? And it's a good question to ask, right? Maybe we have found ourselves in this place in life. Maybe we know other people who are in this place, or maybe we may find ourselves in this place of feeling that we don't have the ability to forgive. And so what Alberto Almeida says is that, why is it we cannot forgive? So he tells us two things. He says, one, either the offense is so great that, it's going to take some time because the pain is so great, whether we've offended someone or someone has offended us, both ways. Or number two, if we are not evolved enough, if we don't have the capacity to love, we're just unable, we don't have that ability to forgive. And that may depend on the size of the offense as well, right? So he says these are two reasons why we are unable to forgive. And we should remember that when we talk about incidences or injuries or offenses, this is stemming back to hurt and guilt. And hurt can be from when someone has offended us and we're hurt, we maybe get angry, we harbor rancor or resentment. And guilt can be seen as that remorse when we have offended someone and we feel very bad about it. But these are two places that are not really good to be because we can get stuck there. So why is forgiveness a choice? Nothing's imposed on us because it allows us to practice our free will. And so we can choose. And in doing so, we gain experience and we learn, right? So he says, if we choose not to forgive, if we just cannot, for whatever reason, maybe we want to forgive, but we just can't shake ourselves of the experience. And remember, this is always going both ways. Not only when we are offended, but when we offend other people. Because sometimes it can feel like, oh, the victim is the poor guy, we should feel sorry for, and it's that tormentor, that horrible person. But no, it goes both ways. That when we are offended, it creates the rancor and the hatred. And when we have offended, it can set us up for guilt and remorse, which is a really, really tough place to be if we don't move forward with it. Because if we only stay in that place of, oh, I feel horrible, I did this, that does us no good. It's very negative. So again, he says, if we choose that, we cannot forgive. He says to us, this can keep us stuck. We can be stuck in remorse. And this is not a good thing, because what is attached to that is negativity. So it shows up, even if we say, I'm never going to do that again, but we stay in this place of remorse of, I'm so horrible, I'm so bad, I did this, I did that. It's going down this rabbit hole of negativity. And when we do that, it shows up in our thoughts, our attitudes, and our actions. And the problem with this is, we know all that stuff gets stored in our perispirit, in our memory. The memory gets stored in our perispirit, which is that subtle body between the body and the spirit. And so it's there. It hasn't gone anywhere. Even if we choose to forget about it and not think about it anymore, it has still been there. It's still there. And what does this lead to? This kind of opens us up to physical illness, not only physical, but mental illness as well. So we may experience sickness in the body and in our mind. And when this is continuous, long-term, intense, it can also set us up for suicide or even homicide if it's a case of rancor where we're hating and angry. It can end up in homicide. So he says, when we say yes to forgive, yes, of course, this is going down that positive track, but he says it's not always easy even then, because it remains a process. And it is good because it starts to have a change in our thoughts, our attitudes, our actions, but it can still be a process. And we can understand this because if it's a huge offense, the other person may not be willing to accept our forgiveness, or we may still not fully accept their forgiveness. And especially if we've done something wrong, the person may want to counterattack us. So, just because we jump on the board of forgiveness doesn't mean everyone's on the same agenda with us, right? And he says the bad thing about this is it can be easy for us to give up. So even though we've realized we want to forgive, it's the right thing to do, there's still challenges. And this is why we need to not give up, but persevere. And he says, and this is where Spiritism can actually help us. He says, because Spiritism encourages self-confrontation. And we also know this as the Nightly Review in the Spiritist book, question 919 by St. Augustine. The answer is from St. Augustine, where he's encouraging us regarding self-knowledge, to know ourselves. And how do we know ourselves? We need to look, we need to ask, we need to take inventory of what do we have in stock, what is inside of us, what are we expressing. And so he says, in doing this, Almeida offers us 6 movements we can do to help us in this process when forgiveness is feeling impossible or difficult. And one thing we should be sure to understand, these are not really steps. I think I referred to them as steps. They're not steps, they're movements. And the reason they're not steps is they don't have to be done in a certain order. They're interrelated, and we can kind of jump in at any point. So I'm going to speak to them one by one, but they are not in order. So one of the movements he proposes is humility, because we see with humility, as we humble ourselves, we need to, or being humble means seeing things as they are, not how we want to pull them up in our mind or want to believe our perception, but just to look at the facts. The other thing is becoming right-sized. So we're neither the bottom of the barrel or we're not on top of the world. To find that place that, yes, we've done some bad things, we've done some good things, and to allow ourselves to be, join the average instead of making ourselves really bad or really good. So he says, when we do this, when we humble ourselves, we're able to arrive at acceptance. And so we arrive to this place saying, I realize I cannot totally forgive this person, nor can I forgive myself, right? Because when we're in guilt or remorse, it's about self-forgiveness. When we're beating up on ourselves and saying, oh, we're so awful. How could we do that? How could anybody like us? This is requiring self-forgiveness. And when someone else has offended us, it's requiring us to forgive the other. Hi, Abby Shear. Be safe while you're driving there. Okay, so he says, as we become humble, we need to stop the self-punishment. We just need to stop saying those things to ourselves. And let go of these negative attitudes, thoughts, words that we're using in regards to ourselves. And again, we always have to keep repeating this. It's when we have offended someone or someone has offended us, both ways, okay? So he says we need to just stop criminalizing ourselves. And as we do that, we come to the next step, and it's not if we do that. The next thing he points out, please excuse me, is remembering we are lights. And he makes reference to the Gospels of Matthew and John, where we're reminded we are children of God. So we come from God. And also Jesus tells us that we can do just as he did and even more. So that we need to accept our evolving little g, in a sense, that we are evolving gods. And so therefore, we can practice love. And if we're not able in a certain situation, we can take this love, because forgiveness, love, it's all together, right? Because we remember charity in the moral sense is goodwill, benevolence, goodwill toward others, indulgence, overlooking the shortcomings of others, and forgiveness. When we have been offended, and when we have offended others, to forgive ourselves. So if we're in this place that we can't do this with a certain incident, we can do it elsewhere. And he says to be loving to plants, animals, the earth, people you don't know. And we're going to say people you don't know, because it's very easy to be loving to people who you know and love you. So he's saying to extend this out, to expand this love, because even we have this one situation that we're kind of stuck, we can do it elsewhere. And so the next movement is charity. And he says, when we practice this, when we practice charity, it increases our ability to love. And so we can see it's going to increase our ability to forgive. So he refers to charity as the bodybuilding of the soul, because we know charity is doing good in any way we can. And so he's suggesting is do this charity where we can easily do it. And then we build and we come to more challenging ways of doing charity. So maybe we can only begin by giving a smile or participating in some groups. And then we can keep raising it higher and higher so we can do more charitable good. So another movement is prayer. And he's quick to tell us that prayer means identifying with God. So it's not the prayer of these ruminating thoughts of, I can't believe this person did this to me. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. Or I can't believe I did that. I can't. When we're going around and ruminating and focusing on the problem and saying, no, this is not connecting to God. So it's a matter of elevating our thoughts. Another movement is perseverance, and we know perseverance to be continuous effort. So to continue to try to do this every day, not just once and say, okay, I tried it, and I'm still not forgiving. No, it's to continue doing this so we build our capacity to love. And another movement, he says, is rebirth. Okay, so what is this? This is the conscious integration of what we've learned. So let us remember that, even if we have offended someone and they will not forgive us, we can still do forgiveness for ourselves, and we can still forgive and learn and grow. And how does that to grow? To transform ourselves. And we can impose forgiveness on other people. If they don't want to forgive, we can impose, but we can still forgive. And when we do this, we're actually strengthening the two wings Emmanuel told us about in Thought and Life. There's that wing of intellect, of education, experience, learning, which certainly these episodes in our life give us this opportunity to learn, to grow, to experience what that feels like to be offended, or when we hurt somebody else, to learn, and to learn what it means to forgive. And of course, this needs to come from our heart. So it's not a matter of like, I should forgive, so I'll forgive, I just won't think about it anymore. Because if we're still saying to ourselves, I just don't think about that, or I'm over that, but we haven't really learned anything, chances are we have not really truly forgiven, which can be a little bit of a, just not dealing with it. But let us remember, everything is stored in our perispirit. So I think this is a very hopeful message, that when we feel we're in that place that we cannot forgive someone else or ourselves, that in fact, there is a way that we can strengthen ourselves to come to that place of true forgiveness. And so I really love this guidance he gives us of starting small and doing the good wherever we can to be of service. I think it's also making that decision when we realize, I want to forgive. Forgiveness is the correct way, but I just don't have that feeling and I don't have the capacity for it. Let me do it in small ways. Let me do the good wherever I can and be of service to other people. And it will come as we build our soul, right? Do our exercises and keep practicing. Because the alternative is to sicken our perispirit, and then when in another lifetime we have no memory of the situation and we don't understand why we're suffering from this physical ailment or why we have mental illness, it can stem back to lack of forgiveness, either of ourselves or other people. So I invite you all, if you can, and not you, Abby, since you're driving, to join me now in a prayer for peace, recognizing the connection of forgiveness and peace. So let us take a deep breath. Let us open our minds and our hearts, and let us allow this message of forgiveness to wash over us. Allowing the body, the mind, to process this information, allowing our hearts to soften, and remembering that without charity there is no salvation. Let us choose forgiveness to free ourselves. And we come to you, Mother, Father, God, in a spirit of gratitude and humility, recognizing our smallness and your greatness. And we thank you for all the mercy and love you pour upon us. We pray that we may become more receptive to receiving these blessings. We also pray for this in this moment for our families, our friends, our co-workers, neighbors, and even those people who don't like us so much. We submit feelings of goodwill, being helpful when we can be, being positive in our thoughts, and remaining silent. When opinions don't agree with ours. We ask for blessings for those in the world who are facing hard challenges, whether it be on a country level with war, or a more personal level of physical illness, mental illness, feelings of abandonment and despair. May their eyes be opened to seeing that helping hand that is soon to arrive. May we be more receptive to the goodness you send our way. Even though we may not understand, in a world filled with chaos and the likelihood of destruction, let us remain true, let us remain firm, and let us acknowledge your love in our life. We thank you and all the good spirits, your workers that provide so much help, guidance, and consolation. And with true humility and respect, we ask permission to close this prayer session. And so be it. And so it is, my friends. Let us go forward into this week, remembering forgiveness. And it really is not an option for us any longer to decide to remain stuck in our feelings of guilt and remorse, rancor, hate, vengeance. Let us free ourselves and change ourselves inwardly so that we too can be a part of helping our world regenerate. We're so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much. I hope that I will see you all again next week. Until then, be healthy, and let's remember to help someone else. Many blessings. Have a good evening.